Good morning, everyone. Well, I'm here this morning to ask for anyone who is free tomorrow to work for $100 at my house, clearing brush and trees and limbs from the property in my house. I have to bring it up to a certain area so it can be carried away by a truck. But there's a lot of it, and it's going to be aerobic work you're going to find. If you're interested in doing that and you have the physical good health to do that, let me know after the service. Is there anybody here from another Unity? Anybody here for the first time? Okay. Well, you are going to be very fortunate today to hear a talk about the truth that makes us all brothers and sisters on this planet. That's really what we're searching for, is this beautiful family experience of understanding we're all in this together. So look forward to this talk by Syntysche.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Unity of Boulder. Those of you who are joining us here in person and those of you who are joining us online, thank you very much. I've got a few quick announcements of upcoming activities and events that we've got going on here at Unity of Boulder. We like to keep things busy and moving along here. So today we have a homeopathic remedies workshop led by Wendy Littlepage. Wendy, I'd like to have you come on up here if you wouldn't mind. The class today, it's from 1:30 to 3:30. It's $45. You can sign up in the bookstore, online, or you can sign up right before the class. It is going to be taught here by Wendy Littlepage here, who's a classically trained homeopath. I'd like to have her say a few things about today's event.
Sure. Hi, I'm Wendy, and I'm a certified classical homeopath. And today I'm teaching a class on homeopathic principles and how to use remedies, homeopathic remedies, to treat symptoms of colds, flu, and COVID. And one of my favorite principles of homeopathy is like cures like. And so an example of that, we have a homeopathic remedy made from onions. It's called Allium cepa. And we all know what happens when you chop up an onion. You get watery eyes, burning eyes, runny nose, and the homeopathic diluted potentized remedy, Allium cepa, would be a great example of a remedy you could use to treat those very symptoms. So it could be from cutting an onion, but very likely it's from a cold or having an allergy, and so those make great remedies. So we'll talk about some principles of homeopathy, and then we're going to dive in and talk about the homeopathic remedies that you can use to treat cold, flu, and COVID. And I know that RSV and croup is going around, so I've also brought in information on those as far as remedies you can use to treat those. And then we'll talk about how you can buy remedies. They're very inexpensive. Put together your own kit. And then finally, I want to tell you a funny story. I went in to tell Syntysche on a Tuesday that I was willing to teach this class. And within a couple of days, my immune system, I had a few events that just kind of took a toll on my immune system. And I had gone this entire pandemic without having COVID. But within about 5 days of confirming this class, I indeed came down with COVID. So I think Spirit just had a funny way and thought that I would be a much better teacher if I had firsthand experience. So I hope to see you this afternoon, 1:30 to 3:30.
Thank you, Wendy. Thank you very much. Just a little bit more on this. This is a direct quote from Syntysche about Wendy's work. these remedies work. I have gone to her for all sorts of other physical issues as well throughout the years, and I cannot speak highly enough of Wendy's knowledge of this powerful natural medicines that have absolutely no side effects. So please sign up for her class today. You will not be disappointed. I guarantee you will go home with some knowledge that you didn't have before that you'll be happy you had. So next, this Friday, we're going to be having a very large concert on this stage that we're doing in conjunction with a few people and a few other groups. It's called our Peace Through Music charity fundraising concert, and it's been put on at other places throughout the years. This year it's going to be here at Unity of Boulder. It's going to have many musicians playing on stage that you've seen on our stage. Like Marcy Baruch will be one of the performers, and Janice Kelly, who's been here lately a few times, and many more. There'll be choirs, bands. It is a benefit concert, mostly for a group called Feet Forward, and another one called Musical Ambassadors of Peace. And I know of Feet Forward. It's a local nonprofit, and their whole goal is to help people who are homeless not just get what they need to get by today, but get on their feet and actually move back into society in a meaningful way. So I recommend coming out to this concert on Friday. It's $20 for adults and $10 for kids. The price goes up on the day of. So if you're interested, grab one of these little flyers out in the lobby, and it'll give you more information on how to get tickets. They're not being sold through Unity of Boulder, but we can help you get there if you have questions on how to do that. So please check that out. It's going to be awesome. Next, A Course in Miracles year-long course is starting up tomorrow evening at 6:30, and it goes from 6:30 to 8 p.m., and it's every Monday for a whole year. This is a class for people who haven't taken it before or haven't taken it in a really long time. So if you've been looking for a new A Course in Miracles class to start up, tomorrow night is the time. Next, we are fully in our choir season for Easter. So we are looking for anyone who would like to join our choir. We meet Thursday nights at 6:30. You don't have to sign up. Just come right on in. And we're just going to do that every Thursday from now till Easter. So come, even if you just want to come check it out, come check it out. And we definitely need more male voices. So check that out. And that is it for today. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Good to see you all here this morning with all that sunshine. It's just nice that we're still putting Spirit first during this Lent season. But this is the part of our service where we call it the call to prayer. We invite you to take a prayer slip out of the front of your pew and put down names of people that could use prayer at this time. And it's perfectly okay to put your own name down. We don't have to put the symptoms or the issues that people are facing. Spirit already knows that. This process is about us aligning with the healing that's already available to these people and just holding a space of prayer for everyone. And we like to sing this song. So Steve's going to come down, make sure your slips get to this aisle. And Steve, from the head of our prayer partners, will collect them. And then he'll put them in the prayer box over here. And they'll be prayed over 30 days here at Unity of Boulder, and then they'll be sent off to Silent Unity at Unity Village, and they'll be prayed for another 30 days. So we invite you to practice this process of prayer. And we like to sing this song. They say to sing is to pray twice. So we're going to sing this into the ethers and align ourselves with this greater power, this greater love we call God, Source, Spirit, whatever word makes you feel connected. You are the air I breathe. You are the air I breathe. Your holy presence living in me. grateful for you. So it is.
Now we'd like to welcome today's special musical guest, who I'm sure you'll recognize, Rebecca Abraxas. Welcome to our stage again. But I'd also like to let you know that Rebecca is not just our special music. She also, every month on the third Friday of every month, she teaches an illuminated sound circle downstairs in the meditation room, and it's usually from 6 to 8. Please check it out. This month it's on the 17th, which is St. Patrick's Day, but come on out for that. I say celebrate St. Patrick's Day the old way, with chanting and meditating. But that's the third Friday of every month, led by Rebecca.
Thanks, Mike.
Falling from grace, only to see it put back into place. The sky blue surrounds me, and I find solace in what I've come to be. Rhythms of grace, rhythms of grace, we are rhythms of grace. Reaching for more, only to see no one keeping score. The day's short, such is life too, and everything old now seems new. Rhythms of grace, rhythms of grace, we are rhythms of grace. Calling out for more, only to find what I've ignored. The silence quiet as it may be rings out answers I now can see. Rhythms of grace, rhythms of grace, we are rhythms of grace. Rhythms of grace, rhythms of grace, we are rhythms of grace. Flying now instead of falling, only to see I could be soaring. The day long, such is life too, and everything old now seems new. Rhythms of grace, rhythms of grace, we are rhythms of grace. Rhythms of grace, rhythms of grace, we are rhythms of grace. Oh, 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 rhythms of grace.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you, Rebecca, for that beautiful way to start. We definitely got our Earth Mother connected in and our feet, and connected to that earthing, which is so important at this time, to stay away from what's going on in the world and staying connected to what is still beautiful, which is that divine mother connection and that feather sky and that unity between both. So this talk title is A Closer Walk with Thee. And I know that sounds like a Christian name. It's not really like me to use wording that's from a Christian hymnal number. But I love that song, and I love the idea of becoming closer to the energy of God. And this Lenten season is about that. We're in the midst of the 40 days of Lent, and today is the 11th day. So you're not too late. You can join in the 40 days whenever you're feeling called and ready to take part in this process, which is a spiritual unfoldment. It's no process of convincing God to bring favor on our lives, which the Christian work would lead us to believe, but it's really a walk for us to take to task that which we're adding into our life that's no longer serving us, the outer things of life and the negative, limited aspects of ourselves that are no longer serving. The 40 days of Lent have historically been a time of fasting, prayer, and study for those wishing to grow closer to God. It can be a time for personal and collective reflection and transformation. It is a time to look honestly at ourselves and to contemplate our relationship with this greater power we call Creator, Spirit, God, whatever word makes you feel divinely connected to this universal love. This is a time for aligning ourselves with high vibrational foods, abstaining from outward stimulants like alcohol, drugs, and sugar, except for prescribed medicines. By eliminating these physical distractions, a new clarity of mind, body, and spirit washes over us and creates anew of that which we already were in the beginning. It's reminding us of our direct connection with Spirit, and when we put things in between our relationship, like dirty foods and things that are just making our body digest difficultly, it's difficultly like digesting, our brains and our bodies and our hearts and our spirits are not firing at their highest good. When we're over-drinking, when we're over-drugging, when we're overusing things to keep us numb and separate and apart from this divine alignment, we can't really have the intuition and the sparks of insight and the call from Spirit to direct us in the directions of what is being called in our lives. And this doesn't just come down to physical stimulants, but it comes down to the lack of forgiveness towards others, negative self-talk, some sort of inner shame that we hold, or a guilt, or facing a poor health and we're trying to figure out how to heal that. And symbolically, we need to let go of the things that are no longer serving our lives. It's a sort of a death. When we're walking down these 40 days, we're walking down in a metaphysical way with Jesus, as he was walking towards his death to go up on the cross, where he said to the world, they do not know what they do. They have no idea why they're doing this. They're taking out pure love and pure light. And so then he dies, but then he resurrects into the light. And this journey is not about Jesus, but it's about us. And when we're ready to face our inner, for better words, demons, the things that we've learned to go to protect our feelings, to protect our rawness, to protect our vulnerability, which in the end has actually destroyed our openness, has destroyed our connection. We think it's helping, but it's actually destroying. We are then inflicted, when we finally, in a good way, with dreams, with insight. These are afflictions that we want when we let go of these things that are no longer serving. We will have divine ahas. We will be told and shown what is needed, what is next. There is no limitation of what we can overcome during this 40 days. And the truth is, it's any 40 days. It's just that as a collective energy, we're doing it together. And we are better in numbers than in apart or in separation. In Keep a True Lent by Charles Fillmore, our co-founder, he says this: "In the universal God mind is a substance that includes the seed of all visible substance. It is the only real substance because it is unchangeable. While visible substance is in constant transition, God as substance does not mean matter, because matter is formed. God is formless. The substance that God is lies back of all matter and all form. It is that which is the basis of all form, yet enters not into any forms as finality. It cannot be seen, tasted, or touched, yet it is the one and only substantial substance. It's the fuel, it's the air, it's the breath. It's the everything that fuels the positivity. It's also the energy that fuels the negativity, because it's energy. And it's a moving forward energy. So we have to take to task what we are letting be filled in our experience. What are we harboring? Are we harboring pure light and gratitude and thankfulness and sobriety and using this vessel as God's vessel so we can create wonderful things in this life, substantial friendships, wonderful relationships, all of these beautiful things that can happen? Or are we still stuck in the old patterns of hiding from the beauty of our life by leaning on things that no longer serve us? The things of the world, the things that maybe give you relief for a little short minute, but then leave you with massive shame, massive hangover, massive blurriness, massive fog, right? These are choices we can make during this time. So I want to get a show of hands of those of you who have dedicated yourself to this 40-day Lenten process. That's pretty good. I would say like 25% of you. And how many are inspired to start today? Right, so that fills it in. Did you raise your hand once? I love it. I love the honesty. Okay, so it's really a matter of aligning with what we want, right? And a lot of times we think we can align in mind and then be matched. But the truth is we have to align in mind, body, spirit, soul. There's so many levels of alignment. So we can say what we want to the universe, but we then have to find the alignment that's through all of the chakras that meet with. And then the universe is that wind that makes it all come about. That healing that we're seeking, that relief that we're seeking, that health that we're seeking, right? So last summer, and I've shared this before, I had an experience where I was met with alignment, and with an alignment that I knew I was supposed to be a part of, but I wasn't ready to resonate with it. And all of my life, I grew up vegetarian, but in my adult life, I found that my physique was much thinner and prettier if I was paleo. So I was very dedicated to a diet that made me look the prettiest, but didn't feel in alignment of my physicality, right? And dancer became more important, that body, that build, over what my soul knew didn't feel right to me. I am not talking about vegetarianism for you. This is my own soul's journey, my own need. And I was at the ministers' conference last summer in June, and my brother is the head of UWM, the executive director, Shad. And he's a vegan and has been all along. And he brought in this professor from India who talked about the long-term results of eating meat. And that morning I had decided, well, I'm not going to eat meat at breakfast, knowing I was going into this vegan talk. That was my big sacrifice of the moment. I laugh at myself looking back on it. And I go in, and there's a big blown up cow that's the size of this pew right here, just for the visual. And this guy's talk was so powerful and so beautiful. And within like a half an hour, my stomach just starts hurting in a way that I'm like, I never get stomach aches. It's just not one of the ailments of my life. And it's hurting, to the point where I am not feeling well at all. And I left, and Mike stayed. And I finally called him, like, Mike, I'm in real trouble. Like, I am so sick, and I am throwing up. I am up, and I'm, a minister, and I have all these ministers in this hotel. I'm like, how can you get me to the hospital? I mean, that's how bad it was. It was hours of me just not being able to even hold anything down. Eventually, they got it under control, and it was a consciousness shift, and I know it, but there was an outer physical experience of alignment going like this, right? What I knew in my soul and what was important in my soul was what that guy was saying on that stage. But the outer directed me wants to hold on to my youth and my prettiness and my thinness, right? That was fighting, right, against this alignment that you know what's right for you, Syntysche. Right, so I got so sick because that's what happens when we come into alignment with what is needed now. And alignment changes as we go through our journey. Alignment, we find these alignments, and sometimes we are going to fight where we need to be. And I had for the year been thinking about vegetarianism. I didn't go vegan. I'm being kind with myself, and I have not had a piece of meat since last June. But that outer experience of the universe going, you know, it was like I swore in that hospital, I will never eat meat again. And it shouldn't take that for us to have to change some of our habits. But unfortunately, it does. Because we don't realize that we're living out of alignment when something is being called within us, when we could just soften into it. Just soften into what God is calling next in our lives. But our egos get in the way, and these things of the world, which I was saying, the physique was more important than me being in divine alignment with the fact that I live for animals. And I don't want to eat animals anymore. Those were the words that made my stomach hurt, was when he said, if you love them, how can you eat them? Right? That changed it. I'm not trying to convince you. I'm just saying that was a beckoning that happened in my life. And it changed. And now I've gotten rid of something else in the last 11 days, and I'm finding all sorts of unfoldment happening. And Esther Hickson says it this way: when you are in alignment, you want to stay in that alignment. So another gift of this time is that we will do these 40 days thinking, I can have a piece of meat after this 40 days, or I can have a drink after these 40 days, or I can smoke marijuana after 40 days, or like whatever we've given up. But because you've dedicated that 40 days, something has changed within you. Something has been birthed within you, and you will know if the alignment is to go back to what was or to stay with the alignment that has happened. Right? This is the whole idea that we've been talking about over the last few years about going from 3D consciousness to 5D consciousness. 5D consciousness is living in complete alignment with this greater good, this greater whole, this greater love. And the only person that's letting you down is you, not God. God is honorable. The universe is honorable. Mother Earth is honorable. But the things of the world which we see are falling apart in this world. That is of human nature. The ego of nature. And healing comes from resonance and knowing what is true and needed and wanted. So I want to share a video that a friend of mine shared with me that's talking about, the title of it is Everything You Think You Know About Addiction Is Wrong by Jahan Hari. And he shared it with me, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so perfect for my sermon, for so many people. When we have our circle up at the end of the service, so many people sharing about family members that have gone down the rabbit hole of addiction and the helplessness that they feel with these family members, or they're personally going down that rabbit hole. So I wanted to share this video because it's got a lot of different things that could be very helpful to each and every one of us.
One of my earliest memories is of trying to wake up one of my relatives and not being able to. And I was just a little kid, so I didn't really understand why. But as I got older, I realized we had drug addiction in my family, including later cocaine addiction. And I've been thinking about it a lot lately, partly because it's now exactly 100 years since drugs were first banned in the United States and Britain, and we then imposed that on the rest of the world. It's a century since we made this really fateful decision to take addicts and punish them and make them suffer because we believed that would deter them. It would give them an incentive to stop. And a few years ago, I was looking at some of the addicts in my life who I love and trying to figure out if there was some way to help them. And I realized there were loads of incredibly basic questions I just didn't know the answer to. Like, what really causes addiction? Why do we carry on with this approach that doesn't seem to be working? And is there a better way out there that we could try instead? So I read loads of stuff about it, and I couldn't really find the answers I was looking for. So I thought, okay, I'll go and sit with different people around the world who've lived this and studied this and talk to them and see if I can learn from them. And I didn't realize I would end up going over 30,000 miles at the start, but I ended up going and meeting loads of different people, from a transgender crack dealer in Brownsville, Brooklyn, to a scientist who spends a lot of time feeding hallucinogens to mongooses to see if they like them. It turns out they do, but only in very specific circumstances. And when I learned this, it just seemed so weird to me, so contrary to everything I'd been told, everything I thought I knew. I just thought it couldn't be right. Until I went and met a man called Bruce Alexander, who's a professor of psychology in Vancouver, who carried out an incredible experiment that I think really helps us to understand this issue. Professor Alexander explained to me, the idea of addiction we've all got in our heads, that story, comes partly from a series of experiments that were done earlier in the 20th century. They're really simple experiments. You can do them tonight when you go home if you feel a little bit sadistic. You get a rat and you put it in a cage, and you give it 2 water bottles. One is just water, and the other is water laced with either heroin or cocaine. If you do that, the rat will almost always prefer the drugged water and almost always kill itself quite quickly. So there you go, right? That's how we think it works. In the 70s, Professor Alexander comes along and he looks at this experiment and he noticed something. He said, we're putting the rat in an empty cage. It's got nothing to do except use these drugs. Let's try something a bit different. So Professor Alexander built a cage that he called Rat Park, which is basically heaven for rats, right? They've got loads of cheese, they've got loads of colored balls, they've got loads of tunnels. Crucially, they've got loads of friends, they can have loads of sex, and they've got both the water bottles, the normal water and the drugged water. But here's the fascinating thing. In Rat Park, they don't like the drugged water. They almost never use it. None of them ever use it compulsively. None of them ever overdose. You go from almost 100% overdose when they're isolated to 0% overdose when they have happy and connected lives. Now, we can't go on with a country where we're having ever more people becoming heroin addicts. Let's set up a panel of scientists and doctors to figure out what would genuinely solve the problem. And they set up a panel led by an amazing man called Dr. Hua Gulao to look at all this new evidence. And they came back and they said, decriminalize all drugs, from cannabis to crack. But, and this is the crucial next step, take all the money we used to spend on cutting addicts off, on disconnecting them, and spend it instead on reconnecting them with the society. And that's not, essentially, that's not really what we think of. What they did wasn't really what we think of as drug treatment in the United States and Britain. So they do residential rehab, they do psychological therapy that does have some value. But the biggest thing they did was the complete opposite of what we do. A massive program of job creation for addicts and microloans for addicts to set up small businesses. So say you used to be a mechanic. When you're ready, they go to a garage and they'll say, if you employ this guy for a year, we'll pay half his wages. The goal was to make sure that every addict in Portugal had something to get out of bed for in the morning. And when I went and met the addicts in Portugal, it was fascinating. What they said is, as they rediscovered purpose, they rediscovered bonds and relationships with the wider society. It'll be 15 years this year since that experiment began, and the results are in. Injecting drug use is down in Portugal, according to the British Journal of Criminology, by 50%, 50%. Overdose. Now, that's the kind of political implications. I actually think there's a layer of implications to all this research below that. You know, we live in a culture where people feel really increasingly vulnerable to all sorts of addictions, whether it's to their smartphones or to shopping or to eating. You know, before these talks began, you guys know this, that we were told we weren't allowed to have our smartphones on. And I have to say, a lot of you looked an awful lot like addicts who were being told their dealer was going to be unavailable for the next couple of hours. And, you know, a lot of us feel like that. And it might sound weird to say, oh, you know, I've been talking about how disconnection is a major driver of addiction. It might be weird to say it's growing because you think, well, we're the most connected society there's ever been, surely. But I increasingly began to think that the connection we have, the connections we have, we think we have, are like a kind of parody of human connection. If you have a crisis in your life, you'll notice something. It won't be your Twitter followers who come to sit with you. It won't be your Facebook friends who help you turn it round. It'll be your flesh and blood friends who you have deep and nuanced and textured face-to-face relationships with. And I think there's a study I learned about from Bill McKibben, the environmental writer, I think tells us a lot about this. It looked at the number of close friends the average American believes they can call on in a crisis. That number has been declining steadily since the 1950s. The amount of floor space an individual has in their home has been steadily increasing. And I think that's like a metaphor for the choice we've made as a culture, right? We've traded floor space for friends. We've traded stuff for connections. And the result is that we are one of the loneliest societies there has ever been. And yet, Bruce Alexander...
Yeah. So the title of that was Everything You Think You Know About Addiction is Wrong. That's a 15-minute video. That was just 5 minutes that I cut out of it. So it's missing a lot of the most important pieces. But I just want to share the pieces that I felt were really pertain to Lent. And really what our culture and what our people have gone through. Like if you look back on COVID and being isolated, you know that in the United States that the alcohol sales tripled. Right, so, and also prescription drugs doubled. Like the amount of us being isolated, what happened? People didn't go to God because they couldn't even go to church. What if there were powers that be that were trying to separate us like that so we could just now just completely just fall apart and become like sheep, just following what shepherd? The drug shepherd, the alcohol shepherd, but honestly, that's what got idolized through that spell, more than us finding the truth of our being. What are we in separation versus what we are in oneness? And those of you that are here are connected and wanting that connection in oneness. We're bringing our children to Sunday school, reminding them that there are heightened individuals that carry that same kind of energy, that we can be together and mirror this kind of love so we can actually transform our lives through all the difficulties that we've seen over the last few years and what we're seeing in the world still today. We want to find this greater love. We want to feel this greater peace. But the truth is even our spiritual community is still half of what it was before COVID happened. But what he's saying is that we need each other. This oneness, this completeness, this is a place to be, to reminded of the beauty of what we are. We don't get this at the 7-Eleven. We don't get this at our jobs. We don't get this. Yeah, we can watch YouTubes after YouTubes till we are like, but are you able to share that with someone else and experience talking about these things so that the seed is planted within you, becoming a part of you as you expand into this Christ figure that's going to resurrect in the next 29 days? You have that chance right now. So, the importance of having a spiritual community, I'm going to talk about that for a little bit. Spiritual community is one of the most important aspects of the spiritual path. In Buddhism and some other yoga traditions, it is known as Sangha and is a central part of meditation practice. Sangha refers to the community of people on the spiritual journey. Traditionally, it was used to denote a community of ordained monks or nuns. But more recently, the term is used to describe a wider spectrum of spiritual practitioners. So we can find Sangha in meetings with advanced or enlightened teachers, but we can also find it by spending time with other fellow spiritual seekers. The Paramahansa Yogananda once said, "Environment is stronger than willpower." Environment is stronger than willpower. You may have plenty of willpower on the path, but find yourself in a negative environment or around people who hold you back. If this is the case, it's hard to reach your highest potential. Most of us are not able to grow far beyond the energy we are surrounded by. We are not able to grow beyond the energy that we're surrounded by. So often in these circles, we hear about family and friends that are having some Christian idea that are trying to put down your illumination and your expansion and your growth and your miraculous experiences. And when you're saying you had a miracle and all these things, they want to point out how that's not possible and you're not right with Christ. Things like this. Because your spiritual community is the actual mirror. Because they're on this path with you. It's needed, it's wanted, and it's necessary. Why do you think AA works so well for people that are addicts? Or NA? Because they're brought into community all the time to talk about what they can't control, and they have to let it go to God. And together, they do that as a team. And they support each other when somebody's having a hard day around alcohol and drugs, and they're the masters for one, and sometimes they're the one that needs the master. And that's what we are. That is God. That unity between oneness, we are all of it. We are the addict, we are the healed. We are the master, we are the broken. We are all these things, and then we can get into synergy, and eventually we are the second coming of this Christ everybody's waiting for. Because we've taken a task where we are stepping into things to distract and numb ourselves from this greater something this alivened love within us. And we show that out to this world until people want to go together. And we are a team. We are the leaders. We are the shepherds that are bringing these people to this light that is being so desperately called. Or we have the latter. We keep letting our families and friends be in isolation and going down the rabbit hole of things that numb them because they don't feel invited anymore because somehow they've made mistakes with this disease, but they're not treated like they have cancer. They're not treated like they have an illness. They're treated like they're bad, that they are weak. Instead of inviting them over and over to be a part of a community that says, you are still a perfect child of God, regardless of the mistakes you have made. You are my brother, you are my sister, you are my son, you are my daughter, you are my mother, and you are my father. You are welcome here. In Keep It True Lent, on page 45, it says it this way: there is a divine goodness at the root of all existence. It is not necessary to give in detail the place of abode of each sentient part of this central goodness, for it is there wherever you look and wherever you look. The goodness may be brought to light in them. Even the animals exhibit its regulating and directive power. The goodness sleeps in the recesses of every mind and comes forth when least expected or comes when beckoned in faith. The goodness may be brought to light in them. Even the animals exhibit its regulating and directive powers. The goodness sleeps in the recesses of every mind and comes forth when least expected or comes when beckoned in faith. So, everybody at the root of it is perfection. There's nothing that makes you separate from that. Everybody has made mistakes. And it's okay to love yourself through your mistakes. Most importantly, it's our shame, it's our guilt, and it's our mistakes that we've made that keeps seeing ourselves as less than perfect. And then we create an outer picture of you being less than perfect in this world. The reflection is of brokenness, of hurtness, of not feeling heard, of not being seen. And so we've recessed to things that are no longer serving. When we can face our shame, when we can face our cuts in sobriety and in clarity, the universe is going to grab you and run with you. Nothing can stand in your way. In Spiritual Economics by Eric Butterworth, it says it this way: a needy person once knelt down before Jesus saying, "Good master." Jesus cut in abruptly saying, "Why callest thou me good? None is good, save one, that is God," in Luke 18:18. He never seemed to lose sight of the fact that while people thought he was God become man, he knew he was man becoming God. We miss the whole meaning of Jesus' life unless we see it as a growth process, and that before he achieved Christ's mastery, he was Jesus, the pensive lad who wandered and dreamed on the hillside of Galilee. He did not say, "I am more divine than you are. What I do comes by divine dispensation, but for you it will take a miracle." No. He said in effect, "I have overcome the world by proving the power of faith and the inherent potential within people. If you believe in the creative flow of the universe as I have done, then you can do all that I have done, and greater things shall you do." I have overcome the world. I have overcome the limitation of the world. Because you are spiritual avatar first. So what we're facing is the physical, human nature that keeps us separate and apart from the unfoldment of this light. is you. It is you. It is you. So this week I had an experience with the thing that I've let go of for the last 11 days. And again, it was earth-shattering and it made me sick. I've got to figure out why, when I have these spiritual adjustments, it puts me basically in bed for 2 days and just sleeping. You know, it's weird. The occurrence, they call it chemicalization. It's a spiritual chemicalization. Your physical body can't handle the leap in this higher alignment, so your body has to kind of catch up. And that's been my experience. That doesn't need to be your experience. I don't want you to take that on yourself, but I had that happen this week. So I was in a situation where I acknowledged for a moment that I had second sight, and I've had that all my life, but this one was so tangible, so tactical, that I just basked in it, and I didn't get emotional about it, but I just witnessed it. And I wrote this down about a few hours after I experienced, and this is what I wrote. Nothing has changed in my outer world, but something has changed in me. The breath of life is being restored, your presence so close, I can hardly believe it. My heart, dear Spirit, is opening more and more as I center in your love. Yesterday, my mind left the things of the world as I noticed puffy snow slowly falling out of a distant window. Everything became a beautiful mosaic of my entire life, of the past, present, and the glimmers of the future. Old familiar sounds of crossed over friends clamoring in joy as my soul shook as to be spiritually adjusted in alignment with what exists in the living and what exists beyond. I'm so eternally grateful for all of this. I'm so completely emotional for it as well. I have been touched by this secret spring, and this goodness has brought to light in me something new. And these are the kind of things that happen when you dedicate yourself to your spiritual life. The clamoring of friends' voices, so tangible, so awake. The color of auburn in front of the puffy snow, which I've experienced, is the ethereal coming in and saying, and I thought, oh my gosh, they're here while I'm observing it, but I don't want to get distracted because it's like dreams. You don't want to wake up out of it. I'm just observing in absolute life otherworldly experience that lasted probably about 5 minutes. I was so calm and collected through the whole thing. Then I went about my day, got in my car within about 10 minutes, and found myself sobbing to the core of my soul. Not out of the missing of my friends that have passed over, not out of the thought that I'm not going to see them again. It was just a knowing that this love, everything about my life has brought me to this point in exactly the way it was supposed to. And I got glimmers of the future, and I was so excited. And as sure as it opened, as sure as it closed. And then I went home, and I had a flu. And I literally could not get out of bed for 48 hours. Now, Spirit, let me just decree this right now. I want these heart-opening experiences in my life. I don't need it to really make me feel like whatever I felt like. But I feel renewed, and I feel fresh in this human body. And if that's what it takes for me to move into these higher alignments, for me to feel the kind of joy and the peace about what it's all about, then honestly, bring it on. I know I can do this without illness, though, too. So I want to just read this. We're going a little over. I just wanted to share this. This is kind of important. So there's a wonderful book titled Dying to Be Me, My Journey from Cancer to Near Death to True Healing by Anita Mirjani, and I would definitely talk about anybody that's facing a physical challenge. This book is so life-changing. But she got to the point where she was in a coma. The family's around her. She was supposed to be passing away that night of cancer. She was riddled from head to toe. And she finally got what she was harboring about herself inside of her being when she was finally outside of her body, looking at her dying self, so close to death, Something in her soul understood what she did to cause this kind of cancer, this belief of something about herself that was less than perfect. And she writes this: as I looked at the great tapestry that was the accumulation, I actually have this written so we can take this in two ways. As I looked at the great tapestry that was the accumulation of my life up to that point, I was able to identify exactly what had brought me to where I was today. Just look at my life path. Why, oh why, have I always been so harsh with myself? Why was I always beating myself up? Why was I always forsaking myself? Why did I never stand up for myself and show the world the beauty of my own soul? Why was I always suppressing my own intelligence and creativity to please others? I betrayed myself every time I said yes when I meant no. Why have I violated myself by always needing to seek approval from others just to be myself? Why haven't I followed my own beautiful heart and spoken my own truth? Why don't we realize this when we are in our physical bodies? How come I never knew that we are not supposed to be so tough on ourselves? I still felt myself completely enveloped in a sea of unconditional love and acceptance. I was able to look at myself with fresh eyes, and I saw that I was a beautiful being of the universe. I understood that just the fact that I existed made me worthy of this tender regard. So let's just go into a short meditation, and I'm running over every week. I'm sorry, you guys. I'm trying to stay within. But I think it's time to close the meditation and just take to heart what speaks to us in this. So let's just take a deep breath in. And out. Just looking back on this, what has been shared today, if it's the music or the announcements or the talk, what stood out that resonated with your heart today? And just breathe that in, because it's all in divine order. It always has been. What you heard might have not been heard by someone else, because it is the perking of your own spirit that aligned with what was said here today. All is available to you. You are the only one who knows what you need. And then God will beautifully swoop in and fulfill it effortlessly today. You know what has tempted you away from this divine unfoldment, what has kept you distracted from what is ready to be birthed within you today. Most importantly, you have to remember you are a perfect child of God. Nothing can make you anything less than that. For the measure that you give to the order of your beingness instead of your doingness, you will receive tenfold from the universe. Love is all there ever is. Let the fear go. Let separation go. Let your self-doubt go. Let your negative self-talk go. Love is the infinite energy that allows the dreamer to create their dream. And all the universe has ever wanted for you is for your dreams to come true. The universe thanks you for allowing this energy in, because you are loved, you are needed, you are wanted, and you are necessary. May the light of God surround you today and always. and I personally send you much love. I bless you, I see you, and I need you, and I love you. Amen.
It's hard to say anything after that. I want to, in this time of offering, Unity is a place. I want to remind you that Unity is a place of, love and prayer. And the beautiful thing about love and prayer is that when you extend love, when you extend prayer, you get that benefit of that love and that prayer. And this is also true of giving, that when you give, you are getting the benefits. You are being given too. I think of our founders, Myrtle and Charles Fillmore. They were both given death sentences at a young age, right? And they completely transformed that and lived both another 40 years. And they founded this whole international movement. So by practicing those things, they had a vital life that literally transformed the world. So friends, when you are giving today, we're inviting you to help support this container, the container that Syntysche was talking about, this community and this process that is about transforming your life and this region and this world. So thank you in advance.
Well, freely we have been inspired, and now freely we can give back to support this organization, this church center of Unity. So those of you that are watching online, you can use any number of methods right here to tithe to Unity of Boulder so that we can keep this truth, this community of truth alive and going and growing. And I also invite you to come in person and share in the energy that is being shared here every Sunday. So now let us bring to mind that financial gift we'd like to make to Unity of Boulder. Let's bless it with this offering prayer. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive, because I give. And so it is. Amen. And we have Rebecca Abraxas to share her beautiful music with us once again.
Okay, so Syntysche's talk got to me. Anyone else? A ball of tears? My makeup's all over the place. Okay. Thank you. I think I'm going to have a sob in my car after this. All right, you guys have a part in this song. So let's just, all that energy from the talk, let's just put it into sound. Ooh, here's your part. Ooh, 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 ooh. Can you do that with me? Ooh, 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 ooh. If I could live in the question of what is to come, if I could live in the question without wanting to run, what would my life be like? Would I finally realize that it can be easier than I thought? Maybe my life has just begun. Here we go. Ooh, 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 ooh. That's it. What am I bringing in? What am I bringing in? What am I bringing in through the questions that come? What is to come of me? What is it now that I can be? If I can live in the question of me. If I can let go of each day, starting fresh and new. If I can let go of how and all I have to do, could more actualize, could I finally realize that it can be easier than I thought, being parts of me I love, but I forgot. Ooh, 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 ooh. What am I bringing in? What am I bringing in? What am I bringing in through the questions that come? What is to come of me? What is it now that I can be? If I can live in the question of me. Ooh, 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 ooh. What am I bringing in? What am I bringing in? What am I bringing in through the questions that come? What is to come of me? What is it now that I can be? If I can live in the question of me. Ooh, 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 louder! Ooh, 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 ooh.
Thank you, Rebecca. So much fun. Such a beautiful and appropriate song for today. All right, well, we have that Healing Remedies workshop after the service today at 1:30. You are going to get skills of self-healing like you can't imagine. I went through, after having COVID the second time, my heart had a rhythm that was off for about 8 months. It was very, very scary. It was just racing constantly, and I could not get on top of it with meditation and everything else. And I went to Wendy, and she gave me a whole regimen, and it completely put my heart back in order. It's amazing, powerful healing modality that has 0 side effects, and she's helped me with many different things through the years of injuries with feet and all sorts of stuff. So I highly recommend this workshop.
After I had COVID, I didn't get a real bad COVID, but I'd start to eat, and somehow the juice in my throat, my little spit, would go up, and I'd go, oh. And it was like, what was that? You know, and it happened a lot. And it was like, when I would go to eat. So she made up a remedy for me, and
it's amazing.
I get a little bit, I take it, and then I don't get it back. So this is amazing stuff.
Definitely. All right.
And she knows.
And we have a new Course in Miracles starting Monday. We have the Spirit of Voices concert on Friday. You don't want to miss that. We have
one announcement. If there's somebody out there that is hale and hearty, physically fit, wants to do some aerobic work up at my house tomorrow, I'll pay you $100 to come up there with me and another guy to move a lot of branches, bushes, trees, and stuff that's been collected up there that I have to get moved to a certain area so it can be picked up by a truck. There's about 6 hours of solid aerobic work in that. So if you need the $100,
sounds like
come
fun.
and see me after the service.
You'll be helping us get insurance for a house in the mountains.
All right, let's all rise and close with I release and I let go. You can give your name and number to Jack. He'll be in the fellowship hall. Also, we have our circle up in 15 minutes at the back of the sanctuary if you want to discuss this sermon further. Here we go. I release and I let go. I let the Spirit run my life. And my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. I release and I let go. I let
be peace on earth and let